decided to start empowering him rather than like,
Yeah.
it's just like, you can do that.
Go over here and I'll show you how to turn this machine on. Do you have a rice cooker?
No.
Oh, see, it's even easier.
Yeah.
Because you throw the package into the rice cooker and then push the button down.
Yeah. This is like, you put a cup of rice in and a cup and a half of water and a little bit of butter, bring it to a boil, put the lid on, and you leave it for 20 minutes.
Oh.
It's the same thing as a rice cooker, it's just...
You're paying attention, you actually have to engage with your food.
Yeah, and because it's an induction, you basically have to engage for 45 seconds. It comes to a boil that quickly, turn it down to simmer, put the lid on.
Right, and
It's
then
really-
is it on a timer? Can you just
Well,
stop
you have to
cooking?
then pay attention to like
See, that's
20
where the
minutes.
rice cooker
Oh,
might
okay.
be. Yeah, maybe it's his birthday present. When's his birthday? I forget.
I'm not buying an appliance for my kitchen. I'm not empowering him that much. I'm not interested in that. No.
No, we're not talking about
we're
Cheryl's
not,
husband.
okay.
We're not.
Oh my god.
Hello, I'm Maureen, and this is Cheryl.
Hi, I'm Cheryl. Where are we looking at? The dot
Yeah,
in the corner?
yes.
Okay. All right.
And this is Books at the Bottom of the Stairs.
Right.
I'm just going to check that focus to make
Okay,
sure. Yeah,
cool.
okay. Talk to
All right.
talk
See
to
you
them.
in a minute.
Yeah, right here. Ish. Yeah, perfect. I don't know the name of that song.
I Dream of Jean.
I thought maybe it was, so I was thinking of like pretending I had a veil on, but
That's probably
no, she's because there really aren't any genies. I don't think that we can actually say anything wrong.
What?
No. Oh, didn't you know? There aren't any dragons either, but that's why we have imagination. We're here to talk to you about My Husband Simon by Mollie Panter Downs.
Panter Downs. Yeah.
I read this in the winter sometime, right? And Cheryl's read this more recently, so she's going to do the synopsis because
No.
I don't remember.
There's a lovely synopsis on the back. Would you like me to just sort of put my eyes down on that and talk as if it's... So it's about a young woman named Nevis Falconer, a young sophisticated novelist, and she meets and marries a man named Simon Quinn. She then comes to realize that her passionate marriage is stifling her creative talent. I really kind of saw a lot of parallels in my own life here. Anyway, and finds herself increasingly distracted and disillusioned with her writing. And then one day in London, she meets a man named Marcus Chard, who is her American publisher, and everything changes.
Right.
Do you remember how it changed?
Doesn't she go to America?
Ultimately.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Ultimately, she does. But it's interesting toward the end, as now coming back to me, I felt sure she would go and certain she wouldn't. There was this really interesting push and pull.
Yeah.
And so do you remember anything about the main character and how you felt about her?
Well, it was when was it written again? 1930s, right?
Yeah, that's the 1930s.
Well, there was a certain part, because I'm of a generation where there was still the flow of you follow your husband's job, or you follow your where the money, you could follow the money basically, and at that point it was still predominantly a male-driven market. I did feel that there were certain things happening in this book that were similar to. However, what was different is I didn't have a competing career.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that push and pull of my needs not being met in particular. Yeah. But I appreciated that she did not have any, there was no support around in her neighborhood or friends or what have you to say, what's happened? What about you?
That's right. Because in that time, she may have believed she had a career, but it was based also on having written one novel when she was 17, which is very parallel with apparently Mollie Panter Downs, the author. She herself wrote a novel when she was a very young woman, and then struggled with the second one, like any great band who writes the great album and then struggles with the second one. So the character in here they talk about may be somewhat autobiographical, but so the character has written this great novel that's well received, and then the second one, not so much.
Yeah, that's right.
And is that really a career as well when you're that young? I mean, she had aspirations for a career, which I think a lot of the people around her didn't appreciate or understand because, you know, we just talked about the 1980s not appreciated or understood, and in the 1930s definitely not. So,
yeah. And the other part that I have been working with in terms of Cheryl and I have daughters that are very similar in age. They're about 5 years apart, and I think mine is the older.
Yeah.
And so they're in a generation where success is defined differently than ours because they've had to be more flexible about where's the money. And I think they've both managed to kind of land in their field, but they haven't necessarily got the job of their dreams.
That's right.
And so in order to not be torturing themselves, they've got to define success in slightly different terms. You and I probably would have said, I'm a pharmacist at such and such, and you would have said, I'm the physiotherapist at such. Not that I was ever a pharmacist.
No, but I was a physiotherapist, which I use whenever the society that we live in needs to see me as a legitimate human being.
Yeah.
Although that's changing now. But for myself, when I was just a mom, if I need to legitimize myself, I would say I was a physiotherapist.
Yeah.
But even then I feel like if we had pursued those chosen career paths, we were given the freedom to do that.
Yes.
With everything else that this woman has to do for her husband as well, right?
Yes.
She still has to, what she has to do for her husband is also, in her society, her upper sort of, she has to choose the food that the servants will make.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting.
I know, like I couldn't get past that. I'm thinking, are you serious? I mean, every Christmas when they ask me, what do I want for Christmas? I say, a cook.
That's right. Exactly.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
And, back in the day before it was an incorrect thing to say, they used to have pool boys. And I used to think, a houseboy.
A houseboy, yeah, absolutely. Although now as I'm saying it, this is what happens to me. I always think when I'm talking, I do kind of understand that I say, look, it's not that I mind cooking, it's thinking of what to cook.
Yes.
So true that, right? And she's not interested, really. She just wants to get on with her book.
Yeah.
And now she has to sit down and the housekeeper and cook really don't seem to think that much of her anyway. She's not your traditional lady of the house.
No.
So she's to be tolerated. And it's sort of a chore for them to go to her to get the, but
so she doesn't have the authority that she needs in her world either as a housewife.
That's
she doesn't have that authority either.
Yeah.
And it's not seen as an opportunity by anybody where the cook can go, I can do whatever I want. She doesn't care as long as there's food on the table and he's happy.
That's
like why didn't anybody just go, hey, hallelujah, we're all on our own?
Right. Because the cook doesn't want to have to think about what to do.
Right. That's really what we need. We don't really need a cook or a houseboy. We just need someone to kind of hand us the slip of paper that says, here's what
it's called Bon Appetit, and you just sign up and you get your emails every day to say, cook this, and I should just say, yes, okay.
Yeah, or fresh in a box or whatever that's called.
Yeah, exactly. But I think where I was going with this, now I'm trying to remember, is that when we were young women with families, we had the opportunity to kind of choose a career path. And it would have been probably that career path. And but then you do find yourselves 30 years on and not necessarily in the same career path.
Yeah.
So young women now, I think, have a clearer appreciation of the fact that they don't have to necessarily settle in.
That's right.
So
or settle for,
yeah, which is its own challenge, I think, because you could struggle with, do I want to be in a relationship or do I not? And then all the judgments with society that come along with that too.
Mm-hmm.
But is what I'm doing legitimate as a career? How do I justify what I'm doing based on what I said I wanted to do?
Yeah.
And, we all kind of just judge one another. But
well, so I think that this book is very interesting in terms of that 1930s 2025 kind of, where are we? 2022 kind of stretch and pull. So I think it's very interesting to see what she did as a privileged white woman, as are we, and just see what she felt suffocated by and what we have struggled with. None of us are really actually being suffocated.
No.
It's just perspective, and this is one of the things she didn't have access to either, was an alternative self-help book.
Yes,
No self-help books, except how to be a good housewife.
That's right. Yeah, and that's more in-laws that are basically telling her she's not a good housewife. They don't. She doesn't approve of, but that's also she doesn't approve of his family because I believe it describes in here that she's of the upper class, and then there's the new upper class.
Yeah.
And so he's of the new.
Yes.
And they describe in the book that his idea of a good time is to hang out at the corner pub and talk to the nevy or whatever. I don't know what that means.
No, I didn't either.
No. And that her idea of a good time is to go and write on her novel, which is also torturous. So they just have a different idea of what is acceptable.
Yeah.
It does say in here too that she judges people by whether or not they've read Virginia Woolf or not.
Oh my goodness.
And he claims his opening line to her is, I've never read your book and I'm basically illiterate. And then the passion starts from there, I guess.
Yeah, that was kind of a curious point.
Yeah.
It was like, what? I guess there are a lot of couples who are not necessarily in the same field. Like we know people who are, like one is a very strong professional in a high performing job, doctors or lawyers or what have you, and then the other partner is in something a little less, I'm going to say work hours strenuous, because there's lots of other things going on there, but where was I going with that, Cheryl?
I don't know.
Yeah, neither do
Different people, opposites attract.
Opposites attract.
Okay, yeah.
There we go. What did you think of the writing style? I rather enjoyed the way the story was presented. Did you?
I did too. And the only reason I know that is that I don't remember thinking anything negative about it. So it didn't I didn't think, oh, this shines in terms of the writing. Now, we talked about Oh Brave New World.
Yeah.
Is it? And I can't, again, with that style, I can't necessarily say what it was about the style. Couldn't dissect it because I'm not trained to say things like that. But I loved the rhythm and the flow and the images. And I'm not actually more of a person who likes dialogue and persons, but in that particular book, just the landscape and was beautiful. But what I found her kind of irritating. Because she wasn't really happy with anything, but she also, I found her relatable because there'd be a moment where she'd just want to go off and do her writing, but she'd find herself being, I don't know if being drawn into, but sort of, and fine, now I'll go get his dry cleaning kind of thing, because it's on my list of things to do today. But I found it a little annoying, but also relatable, because I mean, it can be used as, she's being prevented from doing her using her craft, or she's using the other stuff to distract her from getting down to business. So she's having trouble writing this novel that will be considered more serious. Her second novel, she doesn't even like it, and she hates it when people say to her, "I love your new book," because she knows it's basically literary trash compared to the first one. Yeah. So she's trying to write this new fantastic novel. Yeah. But it is a lot easier to just go get the dry cleaning. And to be angry about going to get the dry cleaning because it's preventing her from doing her fabulous new novel. Yeah.
Well, both Cheryl and I have been in that little story loop ourselves. We're both artists and both writers, and so it's very much I think this book resonated with us, particularly because of what was her name? Nevis. She really had, in a way, our aspirations. We could relate with her aspirations and how she kept roadblocking herself. What did you think of Simon?
He's kind of a non-entity. Yeah. And what I found interesting toward the end, spoiler, we already said it, was that he said to her, you're going to leave me. And she was very surprised by that. And this is, I think, just after she's met her American publisher. And the American publisher, whose name is, I can't remember.
Didn't you say it? You said, was it Max?
Maurice or Max? Marcus Chard. The American publisher becomes good friends with Simon. Like, she enjoys seeing them together, which is a little interesting psychological thing too. Yes. He's an older man. Yeah. I think he's lost his wife, whether through divorce or
he is older by about 20 years. Would you say?
So he's kind of a father complex kind of feeling in there too, but he also admires her and sees potential in her that she may not see in herself either.
Yeah.
But I found it interesting that she put them together, and that Simon then says, "You're going to leave me," and he's not at all surprised when she makes this final quick decision to just go.
And he actually almost seems okay with it. It's almost he seems to have a world that's fairly fulfilling for him, so having her in his life is almost extra.
But it didn't feel like he was going to miss her. It didn't feel like he resented her for what she was trying to do. He felt very sympathetic. I felt that he's just being himself, and he's happy with her. Yeah. And
he was never part of the problem.
No.
It was the cook.
Yeah, absolutely. The cook. You're right. He wasn't part of the problem. And it's admirable that he... I mean, it never, I guess it's because it's through the eyes of Nevis too. You never really hear him exclaiming that he just wants her to be happy. Yeah. But he seems relatively calm about letting her go. He doesn't seem distraught or...
And I think he made that declaration fairly early in their relationship to me. So the other thing that I found a little bit interesting was how long Marcus could stay in England. He was there forever, and he just seemed to have this incredibly flexible schedule, and so it allowed him to pursue her in a more sophisticated kind of a way. He had the patience that would allow him to kind of groom the relationship.
That's
interesting. Yeah, so instead of having to rush off and go back to his job, he was able to.
See, now I kind of wondered if he was grooming her, because yes, he disappeared to Paris, and she's like, "Where is he?" And, he's just gone to Paris, and it's, so if you're interested in someone and they just took off, then that I can see that as being a manipulation. Yes, but I also wondered if he just didn't really care as much. I mean, like maybe she'll come with me, maybe she won't. Yeah. So maybe both of them could be the perfect man for. I mean, her passion is supposed to be her career, and so it's interesting that two men are maybe setting themselves up as not necessarily demanding that she be passionate about them and leaving her open to pursue her craft. Yeah, but you still got to pursue the craft. So there's still angst in there, right?
There is, So it's actually, it would have made a very interesting. If the author felt like writing it the way I would tell her to write it, if somehow Nevis had decided, I can have the best of all worlds. I can be with Simon and have my passionate sex, because that was pretty much the only thing. And I can write, and then I can trot off to America when I'm feeling a bit of a writer's block, and do the cultural things that Marcus seems to hasn't actually provided, but suggests that that's going to be part of that New York world. Yeah. And how much of that is going to be a distraction?
True. Yeah. So, and it's true. If you're in a social class, I guess, that you're familiar and you have your people, then you go to a new, whether you'd be drawn in and distracted, or whether you'd insulate yourself because Anyway. This is a very quite autobiographical. I'm remembering now. This author eventually moves to New York, so it would be interesting to know a little bit more about Mollie Panter Downs and her personal life, I guess, in terms of relationships and whether there is a parallel. But I don't know if this one's ever going to be happy.
No, this woman, I don't think so. No, and I'm not sure she's ever going to write that third book. She seems to be. I don't think going to New York is really going to help. Maybe she will, because if he's urging her on, but if that's what it takes to write a book, then she's not really written a book. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you need a whole village to help you get that stuff down, have you really written a book, or have you? Yeah. And
I guess if she's written a book when she's a young woman, like 17, is what they're. That's from the perspective of a 17-year-old. So maybe she just needs to grow, right? Like go and live. So maybe she does. Maybe she lives in New York for 15 years and then writes the next great book. Is she angsty the whole 15 years about writing the next great book? Does she define it? And this comes back again to our daughters, right? So I've defined myself. When was I last a physiotherapist? 1980, not 1990.
Right.
1990.
Right.
So this is now 2022, and I have used that 5-year work experience to justify my existence as an adult. So will our daughters, you know, I think they're more nimble. They're more able, they're less defined. So they're not like, I will be a writer. They're like, this is what I'm interested in. This is what I'm doing now. Here's what, makes me hopeful. For me too.
Well, and actually it becomes a reciprocal lesson because trying to take on board their nimbleness and their flexibility makes it, you know, a little more relaxing in our final days on Earth.
It does. But I find them inspiring too. Like
that's what I mean. Yeah. So like my daughter, she has a career that's connected to the government, but she also has made a place for watercolor.
Right.
And she's at this stage, she's not interested in being an artist, but she's interested in pursuing the technical craft side of things. And so at a certain point, I suspect if she goes forward with the watercolor, she will do it as part of the whole.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference.
In.
Their whole is many parts.
That's right.
Our whole was 1 or 2 parts.
That's right. And we were told, you know, I mean, it occurred to me maybe a year or 2 ago that I could have been a doctor. That was never presented to me as an option. I could have been a teacher and nurse, and physiotherapist was kind of exotic, right? Things were just starting to open up a little bit. But the idea that all of a sudden I could think I could have been a doctor. So they have a variety of directions, and I think a greater understanding, and I know I've reinforced this in my daughter's world too, was just choose something, and then you never know where it's going to lead, because my 5-year career in physiotherapy and then acting led me into patient simulation, which was kind of my career for 20 years. And it wasn't a full-time thing, but that was what held a lot of my time, and I never knew that would be a thing.
That's right. So. Well, I think the other part. Do any of your notes that you wrote? Is there anything there that you want to pick up on? That
I'll read
Cheryl made notes, and I'm just flying by the seat of my pants, and the dog is licking my toes.
She's very Simon focused. She's very Simon focused. I wrote love versus career, modern woman versus social expectations. The struggle to produce, assert, advance herself as a writer versus the easier domestic rituals we talked about. She uses an excuse. Relatable. Does the editor-publisher love her as a writer or as a young woman? Is he old enough to not need or want a wife so that he's had that? And, I'm assuming he can look after himself. All you have to do, apparently, is be able to say, I'd like roast beef for dinner, and then everything happens. So what's there not to be able to do? But,
so basically, it was just fresh in a box, except it was fresh in a human.
Right, exactly. Really?
Probably more expensive.
Oh,
you had to pay a living wage, probably. No, you didn't, because they lived in.
Exactly. Yeah. Really,
what have we come to? What have we come to?
It's a woman's work to be able to think of what to cook. Wow. Can we go back there?
Well, thank you very much. My Husband Simon by Mollie Panter Downs. Now, what we do have, and Cheryl and I have not spoken about this all, is we have 4 other books that are from that unboxing event. And I don't know, do you want to do another one?
Sure.
Yeah, well, just because we say it on camera doesn't mean we're committing to it.
Maybe you could ask people to vote which one we do next.
Oh, okay.
Oh my
God.
Some
all right.
Power.
Dangerous Ages by Rose Macaulay takes a lively and perceptive look at several generations of women within the same family and the dangers faced at each of those stages in life.
Oh.
Neville is celebrating her 43rd birthday and contemplating her future now that her children are grown. Her mother seeks answers to being 63 in Freudianism. Her sister Nan, a writer, has hitherto led a carefree single life, has a rude awakening in love. And Neville's daughter Gerda is determined to reject all the principles of her mother's generation.
Doesn't sound relatable at all.
Sally on the rocks, and she's not drinking apparently. Someone pointed that out to me.
Okay.
She's on vacation in search of a husband. As the First World War grips Europe, she flees Paris to the safety of life in Little Crampton. Under the roof of her guardian, the Reverend Adam Lovelady. There's so much conflicting information right there, like Crampton and Lovelady.
Yes.
Sounds like a period.
It does. Oh my gosh. It's a period piece. Keep reading. Okay, so then Sally's a warm-hearted, spirited heroine who's determined to settle into a comfortable life now that she's in her early 30s. Oh my. But she has a rival for the affections of the village's most eligible bachelor, and her pursuit is further frustrated by a soldier tortured by his experience at the front and a secret in her bohemian past, which follows her home.
I bet it's not a dog.
I know. Bohemian.
Yeah.
All right.
Bohemian is kind of relative too.
Really, there's Freudism and
yeah.
Is that no? That was the other one. It's Freudism.
This is
Freudism, Bohemianism. Okay.
Tea is so intoxicating by Mary Essex. I shall turn this into a tea house with lunches if requested, and shall serve pleasant meals in the orchard, announced David.
Oh.
And with my penchant for cooking, I ought to make a fortune. Oh dear, says Germaine.
That's perfect. Just leave it at that.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
The tea is so intoxicating. Now, I know we're not going to do this one, Chatterton Square. Cheryl has read it already. And
No, I haven't.
I thought you did.
No, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
No.
I did get a poor review from Zodiac.
Read about it.
Okay.
maybe I have.
A sharp and insightful observation of marriage and families, this layered story focuses on the neighboring household of the Blacketts and the Frasers, the developing allegiance between the spirited Rosamund and the dutiful Bertha, subtly exposes the realities of their marital experiences and desires.
No, the only other one I've read of this series that we haven't talked about was the tree, Tree of Heaven.
I thought we did.
We didn't talk about that one.
But you didn't like, was it Dangerous Ages you didn't like? No.
No, the one I didn't like was called, and I don't think you got it, was,
they're all different.
Okay. Something about 4 stages, 4 acts, or who's on first, kind of.
Yeah, I thought it was Chatterton Square.
No.
Well, I do. The book boy who I follow, who's from Britain, and he did not like this book, so he definitely put it down. And when he replied to me because I said, "Oh, that's on my to-do list," and he said, "Don't."
Really?
So I'm going to take this off the list.
Okay.
You can only vote for Dangerous Ages, Sally on the Rocks, and Tea is So Intoxicating.
Okay.
Now, are you allowed to vote since you're one of my viewers?
No. No, I won't vote since I'm going to be participating. But, but in terms of coloration, these two are really drawing me in.
Yes, well, you're wearing that color.
Yeah, I find this a little hard on the eyes, but I could. But the inside is not like that.
Thank goodness.
So okay, but yes. Anyway.
Yeah, that was good, and the blue goes with me today.
I know. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so
depending on what your priorities are,
you can vote by theme.
Yeah.
You can vote by color. You can vote by plot.
That's right.
I guess we should have mentioned who the writers are. Sally on the Rocks is by Winifred Boggs.
Yes.
Rocks and Boggs. This one, I'm just so intrigued by all these word clashes.
Dangerous Ages is Rose Macaulay.
And Tea is So Intoxicating is by Mary Essex.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, let's see what our next assignment is.
Yeah. So we'll do the same. We'll just each read it and then come together someday over...
And see if we remember it. Let's put a limit of 2 months or something. To see if we can. Yeah. Anyway.
So just to... in terms of the sound quality of today's video, you may have noticed there's been sort of this low, subtle kind of grinding noise. It's the dog.
Yeah.
She's eating on a bone.
Yeah.
And very determinedly having a bone. And I don't want to call her name because once she realizes you're paying attention, it takes a long time to disengage.
Her. Yeah. She is very used to when friends come over. She looks at me and starts... And that means it's time for a bone, right? So, So we can't make this too regular because she learns things really quickly. It's like this means if we do this more than 2 weeks in a row, every Wednesday at 11:30, she'll be freaking out for a bone.
Okay.
Yeah. And in half an hour, she'll also be asking me to go upstairs for a nap.
Right. So we better wrap this up
That's
because
right.
I have tried to nap with Cheryl and the dog before, and they're very restless.
That's right. Yeah.
So thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I love having you. It's always fun. Yeah, we have fun all the time.
We do.
Yep. All right. Cheers.
Cheers. It's just apple juice, people. It's just apple juice.
She says.
Yeah. We hope all of your reading wishes and
dreams and adventures
come true.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay.
Go get the tequila.
Yeah.
That was fun.